I'll take a look in a second. Love you.
Love you. Good night.
Well, we are back here. We were not here that long ago talking about the news and everything that was happening here, and now it is time for the State of Disunion. That is right. We're here. I'm joined once again by KTZed to come back and talk about what's going to happen here. I've got the center screen up. We're going to be watching the State of the Union together, so definitely looking forward to that. That's definitely going to be, I think it's going to be fun. What do you think is going to happen tonight? You're muted.
It wouldn't be a KTZed stream if there wasn't, if I didn't do that at least twice. I'm just excited for the reunion. Like, not the union, the reunion.
It's gonna, like, because we haven't worked together since, well,
in like 6 months, right?
Yeah, it's been that, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm in a new studio. I moved.
Yeah. I've
I
just
don't know why everything's so
stuff up
quiet
around
here right now, but I don't know if that's on your end or if that's on my end. But I'm like getting no volume, but I'm not getting a lot of volume on my end either. So,
Well, maybe if I talk directly into the microphone, does that help?
yeah, that's a bit better here. But
Okay.
I'm looking at my monitors too. I'm like, man, I don't know if it's just because I'm using the different chat app or what's going on here. It should all be the same, but you know,
Yeah.
people, technology does screwy stuff. Anyway, my name is Jay Edgar. We are going to be watching the State of the Union. Yeah, there's going to be some stuff, and I mean, I've got the C-SPAN stream up here, but you don't have to get the C-SPAN stream up because we'll put it up here for you. So I got a little bit of music going on in the background as we go. Luke Wee is asking bets on how long he lasts tonight.
I would say, well, now last year when we did this, I thought he was gonna like conk out almost immediately, and he made it through the whole thing. So I'm gonna be generous and say 20 minutes.
Well, I mean, he's probably, well, you don't watch Star Wars though. So, no, you do watch, or you did watch Star Wars before. He's in the back.
Like the
of tank.
first 3 or the second 3.
Yeah, he's like Vader. He's in his little capsule regenerating, and he has been for the entire day. Oh,
Probably.
look, there's Jill. Oh, I see your webcam flicker now, by the way.
Isn't that weird? I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I don't either.
We're just gonna have to live with it.
Yeah, we are. So, what do you think is going to be coming here for this tonight?
I have no
that's
idea.
My big one.
I'm excited to find out because, I mean, everything sucks so much right now. There's going to be interesting how his handlers wrote it for him to spin it.
Yeah, there definitely will be that aspect to everything. One of the questions that I really have for this is what is this going to be for the balloon?
I don't think do you think he'll even mention the balloon?
I think he has to.
I doubt it. I don't think he'll
he's got a
mention it.
choice.
I can't see that happening.
I'm gonna crank the music down, and we're gonna get the everything up onto the screen here. I love that playlist. I know that you don't like video games, so you probably wouldn't recognize anything, but I love that
I
playlist.
don't.
It's so calming. They're doing the pageantry right now, so let's actually get this up on the screen, and then we'll get the live chat up here.
Get the pomp and circumstance going.
Well, that's all that this thing is anyway, so.
For real, yeah.
But I mean, I know that the Tyree Nichols family is going to be there tonight. They're actually, and we were talking about it on Contemporary, they're going to bring Michael Brown's dad out here too.
Like, I could see Tyree Nichols. Like, I could see that one, but Michael Brown did not have his hands up, and they did shoot. Like that whole thing, like the Justice Department came out with a whole report. Like I read the whole thing.
Hmm.
That was a good shooting.
Yeah.
He was a criminal.
Luke Wee is saying that it's going to be 30 minutes. Ron Hilton says 15 minutes, and they have to go change his depends.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that depends on whether or not he got his bran muffin today or not.
Yeah, exactly. I need to get the chat up. I'm so used to now like having like Restream and OBS and everything open in front of me that I feel so weird right now just talking to you without having to click buttons.
You feel so weird with me actually having to be the one that's doing all the work here?
Yeah. I mean, it used to be like that, but now I learned how to click buttons and it's weird not clicking buttons. let me get let me
Spartacus
get you guys up in front of me.
Spartacus is saying that it's going to be Ukraine, Ukraine, Russia, Russia, Ultra Mega Corn Pop.
I wouldn't doubt it. It probably is going to be a lot of Ukraine.
That what Spartacus put out there. You remember, like when we used to do the clap games when we were in school, and the younger generation probably has no idea what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
like patty cake.
That sounds like that would be a rhyme from that.
Yeah, or double
Ukraine,
Dutch.
Ukraine, Russia. Yeah, exactly. uh, Kevin McCarthy standing there in state. I can't believe that they let him get through. That still blows my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay. So if I have that up, I have the chat, and then I need to get the State of the Union up too.
Hmm.
Because I tried to have it in my ear, and that maybe I can do it that way.
Do you guys have this down by you?
What is it? I have not seen. Oh, it's cream soda?
Yeah. Well,
I
they
have
make
not,
beers too,
but
but
cream soda is one of my husband's favorite things. So
I'm gonna
next time
get
you
a case.
come,
I'm
bring
gonna
him
mail
some.
it down to you.
Just bring it.
I don't know what, because I just started a new job. I don't know when I'm going to get vacation time to go back and do that.
Well, when you were interviewing, you should have told them, look, I have plans for 4th of July. I'm going to need the
I
time
I think
off.
that is going to be a thing, and I think that's going to be like right shortly after I get into my new place too.
Awesome.
Spartacus says, "Did McCarthy bring the paper shredder?" That actually was, and I didn't put that on because I knew that I was only going to do an hour contemporary. But one of the questions that was in the Daily Wire's coverage said, "Do you think McCarthy's going to tear up the speech?" That actually was a thing
Oh,
that they were
I
talking about.
doubt it. That was just so classless. Who was it Pelosi that did that?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got some nerve. Like her husband's at home getting pegged and she's tearing up speeches. How disrespectful. So I'm
Her
sorry, I
husband's getting
forgot where I forgot we're on your channel. Never mind.
Well, I think that given the late time frame of this, we don't have to do the AM radio kind of thing.
Okay, good.
I've been slipping a little bit too lately, though, too, so I'm going to take part of my filter
Look
off
at
here
there's
because,
Pocahontas.
won't you paint with all the colors of the wind? There is, by the way, an Instagram channel that I found. It's a dude doing heavy metal covers of, like, Disney songs. I found it with the Frozen song is the one that he did when I first found the channel, but
That's
it's
fun.
it's entertaining to say the least. And the last one that he put out was Colors of the Wind.
Oh, awesome. There she is.
Yeah,
That's
there's Paul too.
so embarrassing.
Is DePape gonna show up too?
Probably. Okay,
I'll have to
nothing's
remember
happening
to
yet.
put my filter back on. I guess I don't know if it's just because the other program is drawing from it or whatnot, but I don't have the volume out of my microphone like I usually do because usually I've got to be like right up to here and speaking quietly, otherwise it cracks off the top.
Yeah.
But now I actually had to bump the gain up a little bit to keep up with you. And I don't know what's going
I'm
on.
sorry. My last I have not reset. Okay, so my last stream that I did on Sunday, my microphone completely crapped out like 2 minutes before we were going live.
Hmm.
So I had to restart everything and I haven't adjusted the levels in this microphone back to where I had them set before. Like I messed around when I first got this mic, I messed around with all the levels a lot until I got it exactly the way I wanted it. And this is just like it's reset like straight out of the box right now.
Yeah, I thought Steven did a lot of that, didn't he?
He did. Yeah.
Because I didn't know that there was a gain filter in the microphone.
He
Who's this
did,
chubby?
and then he had me take a
Oh, hold on.
picture or a
They're doing
screenshot.
something.
All right, here we go.
Ron Helton says his router just rebooted. Spartacus says pre-torn speech. Ron says, I can't remember the woman's name Pocahontas is talking to, but she's a rep from Hawaii. I believe that is Hirona, but I don't remember. No, Hirona's a senator. Biden looks around.
Where am I? Well, he looks like they got him, they have him well rested. He was in his pod all afternoon, you're right.
Stephen Ingramus is here with the dumb screen.
Hello. Now that's how you come into a chat, saying hello.
Spartacus says, I want to dress up like Radcliffe, get me the Pocahontas' face and scream sandwiches.
Are you okay?
He does actually look well rested. I'm not even lying about that. I think he might make it more than 20 minutes.
He looks well rested, but he does look confused.
I mean, when doesn't he look confused? He's always looked confused. It's been like years. He's looked confused for years.
Yeah, I don't know what Steven says that I'm a little bit quiet over here. I don't know what happened, but when I started in on the Google chat, it used to be Hangouts. I don't know why, but my microphone is not picking the way it used to be, so I'm going to try and pick it up a little bit. Yeah, he got the good drugs today.
Yeah.
Steven, in a hot take, says, I'm not even kidding. Biden's maybe the biggest Chad in this room. He straight up doesn't give an F.
All of this clapping. They don't like him either. This is all fake.
It's the State of the Union. It's always been fake.
Yeah, I do kind of hope somebody rips up some papers. At least it'll be more exciting.
I mean, there was a time where the State of the Union was always delivered on an envelope. Like, it was a little envelope that the president delivered to the House
Oh, yeah.
and said, yeah, this is the state of our union. Do something about it.
Can I link my channel in your chat for people that don't know who I am?
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, I would
always
enjoy
like to
that.
ask permission before I shamelessly show myself. Let's see.
State of usury, says Spartan.
All right, anybody who is here who has not subscribed to my channel, I'm linking in the chat right now. And I see at least 3 or 4 of you that I haven't seen before. So if I don't get 3 or 4 new subscribers, like right now, I'm kidding. I'm not going to make threats. You better do it or else. Totally kidding.
No, that is Paul. I remember that from the video, by the way.
Yeah.
Ron says, was that another rep standing next to Pelosi? No, I remember that from the, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey man, what am I doing here?
That video, I didn't think we'd ever be able to see it, first of all, when that first happened. When that came out, I was like, I thought it was fake at first.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize it was real. It's not nice, Stephen.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor to present to you the President of the United States.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you. You can smile. It's okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Ooh.
Thank you. Please. Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, good to see you guys up there. Members of Congress.
Wow, they're clapping for him telling the truth for once. Usually they clap when he lies.
By the way, Chief Justice, I may need a court order. She gets to go to the game tomorrow, next week. I have to stay home.
I don't know how big the
Gotta
delay
work
is
something
from
out
what
here.
you're hearing to what
Members
I'm
of the
hearing.
Cabinet,
So
leaders of our
I don't want to
military,
talk
Chief
over
Justice,
anything
Associate
good.
Justice, and retired Justice of the Supreme Court, and to you, my fellow Americans. You know, I start tonight by congratulating the 118th Congress and the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Speaker, I don't want to ruin your reputation, but I look forward to working with you. And I want to congratulate the new leader of the House Democrats, the first African-American minority leader in history, Hakeem Jeffries.
I was calling the help last year.
He won in spite of the fact I campaigned for him. Congratulations to the longest serving leader in the history of the United States Senate, Mitch McConnell. Where are you, Mitch?
I have no idea who Hakeem Jeffries is.
The House Minority Leader.
And congratulations to Chuck Schumer, another term as Senate Minority Leader. I think you. This time you have
I hear he
slightly
smuggles
bigger
cocaine.
Majority, Mr. Leader. You're the majority leader. About that much bigger? Yeah. Well, I tell you what. I want to give special recognition to someone who I think is going to be considered the greatest speaker in the history of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi. Folks, the story of America is a story of progress and resilience, of always moving forward, of never, ever giving up. It's a story unique among all nations. We're the only country that has emerged from every crisis we've ever entered stronger than we got into it. Look, folks, that's what we're doing again. 2 years ago, the economy was reeling. I stand here tonight after we've created, with the help of many people in this room,
Quest Fanning
12
is getting
million
no
new
bucks
jobs.
tonight.
More
I
jobs
was
created
just
in 2
saying,
years than any
Quest
president
coming in
in
hot
4
over
years.
here.
Because of you all. Because of the American people. 2 years ago, and 2 years ago, COVID had shut down, our businesses were closed, our schools were robbed of so much, and today, COVID no longer controls our lives.
What do you mean by you
And
people,
2 years ago,
Joe?
democracy faced its greatest threats in the Civil War, and today, though bruised, our democracy remains unbowed and unbroken.
Oh, we got the stat tracker going on in here. Thank you, Spartacus.
As we gather here tonight, We're writing the next chapter in the great American story, a story of progress and resilience. When world leaders ask me to define America, and they do, believe it or not, I can define it in one word, and I mean this: possibilities. We don't think anything is beyond our capacity. Everything is a possibility. You know, we're often told that Democrats and Republicans can't work together. But over the past 2 years, we've proved the cynics and naysayers wrong. Yes, we disagreed plenty. And yes, there were times when Democrats went alone. But time and again, Democrats and Republicans came together to defend a stronger and safer Europe. You came together to pass once in a generation infrastructure law, building bridges connecting our nation and our people. We came together to pass the most significant law ever, helping victims exposed to toxic burn pits. And in fact, it was important. And in fact, I signed over 300 bipartisan pieces of legislation since becoming president. From reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, the Electoral Count Reform Act, the Respect for Marriage Act that protects the right to marry the person you love. And to my Republican friends, if we could work together the last Congress, there's no reason we can't work together and find consensus on important things in this Congress as well. I think.
I disavow, Spartan.
Folks, you all are as formed as I am, but I think the people sent us a clear message.
Kamala's just going to keep standing up and down, isn't she?
Power for the sake of power. Conflict for the sake of conflict.
That's the biggest workout she's got all year.
That's always been my vision of our country, and I know it's many of yours. To restore the soul of this nation, to rebuild the backbone of America, America's middle class, and to unite the country. We've been sent here to finish the job, in my view. For decades, the middle class has been hollowed out in more than, and not no one administration, but for a long time. Too many good-paying manufacturing jobs move overseas. Factories closed down. Once thriving cities and towns that many of you represent became shadows of what they used to be. And along the way, something else we lost: pride, our sense of self-worth. I ran for president to fundamentally change things, to make sure our economy works for everyone, so we can all feel that pride in what we do. To build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. Because when the middle class does well, the poor have a ladder up, and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well.
Cheers, Quest.
Oh, look, who's burning the mask. With his glasses.
I know a lot of you always kid me for always quoting my dad, but my dad used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. He really would say this. It's about a lot more than a paycheck.
Highly welcome.
It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. Well, folks, so let's look at the results. We're not finished yet by any stretch of the imagination, but unemployment rate is at 3.4%, a 50-year low. A near record unemployment. Near record unemployment for black and Hispanic workers. We've already created, your help, 800,000 good paying manufacturing jobs. The fastest growth in 40 years. And where is it written? Where is it written that America can't lead the world in manufacturing? And I don't know where that's written. For too many decades, we imported projects and exported jobs. Now, thanks to what you've all done, we're exporting American products and creating American jobs. Folks, inflation has been a global problem because the pandemic disrupted our supply chains, and Putin's unfair and brutal war in Ukraine disrupted energy supplies as well as food supplies, blocking all that grain in Ukraine. But we're better positioned than any country on earth right now. But we have more to do. But here at home, inflation is coming down. Here at home, gas prices are down $1.50 from their peak. Food inflation is coming down, not fast enough, but coming down. Inflation has fallen every month for the last 6 months.
Stephen
while
thinks we should go
take-home pay
protest
has
at the
gone up.
Capitol.
Additionally, over the last 2
I'm in.
years,
Walls up.
a record
Yeah, I'll pick
10
you up,
million
Stephen, on the way
Americans
there.
applied to start new businesses. 10 million. And by the way, every time someone starts a small business is an act of hope. And Madam Vice President, I want to thank you for leading that effort to ensure that small businesses have access to capital. And the
Where is he
historic
getting these
laws
numbers
we enacted
from?
that are going to just
I
come
wonder.
into being. Standing here last year,
10
I
million
shared with you a
Americans are
story
starting new
of
businesses every year.
American
Really?
genius and possibilities.
I'm starting too.
Semiconductors, small computer
100
chips the
million
size of a
billion
fingerprint
businesses.
that power everything from cell phones to automobiles and so much more. These chips were invented in America. Let's get that straight. They were invented in America. We used to
fact
make
check on that.
40% of the
I'm pretty
world's
sure
chips.
they were invented in
In
Japan.
the last several decades, we lost our edge. We're down to only producing 10%. We all saw what happened during the pandemic when chip factories shut down overseas. Today's automobiles need 3,000 chips, each of those automobiles. But American automobiles couldn't make enough cars because there weren't enough chips. Car prices went up, people got laid off. So did everything from refrigerators to cell phones. We can never let that happen again. That's why we came together to pass the Bipartisan Chips and Science Act.
I thought that was to pad Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio.
That's exactly why.
Folks, I know I've been criticized for saying this, but I'm not changing my view. We're going to make sure the supply chain
Chips
for
and science.
America begins in America. The supply chain begins in America. We've already created 800,000 new manufacturing jobs without this law, before the law kicks in. With this new law, we're going to create hundreds of thousands of new jobs across the country. And I mean all across the country.
I don't know, 'cause I keep hearing
Throughout,
about
not just the
layoffs, and
coast,
we
but
talked
through the
about-
middle of
we
the
talked
country
about
as
layoffs 3
well.
days in a row.
That's going to come from companies
Yeah.
that have announced more than $300 billion in investment in American manufacturing over the next few years. Outside of Columbus, Ohio, Intel is building semiconductor factories on 1,000 acres, literally a field of dreams. It's going to create 10,000 jobs, that one investment, 7,000 construction jobs, 3,000 jobs in those factories once they're finished. They call them
Ohio's
factories.
not real.
Jobs paid an average of $130,000 a year, and many do not require a college degree.
Wait, I thought Democrats were all about everybody needs a college degree.
Because we work together, these jobs where people don't have to leave home to search for opportunity. And it's just getting started. Think about the new homes, the small businesses, the medium-sized businesses. So much more that's going to be needed to support those 3,000 permanent jobs and the factories that are going to be built. Talk to mayors and governors, Democrats and Republicans, and they'll tell you what this means for their communities. We're seeing these field of dreams transform to the heartland. But to maintain the strongest economy in the world, we need the best infrastructure in the world. And folks, as you all know, we used to be #1 in the world in infrastructure. We've sunk to 13th in the world. The United States of America, 13th
he's got the angry
in the
on.
world in infrastructure, modern infrastructure. But now we're coming back because we came together and passed the bipartisan
Oh my
infrastructure
goodness,
law.
finger
The
wagging.
largest investment in infrastructure since President Eisenhower's interstate highway system.
President Knives Flower? Is that what he just said?
And folks, already we've funded over
Whoa.
20,000 projects, including major airports from Boston to Atlanta to Portland, Projects that are going to put thousands
That was almost
of people to work
English.
rebuilding our highways, our bridges, our railroads, our tunnels, ports, airports, clean water, high-speed internet, all across America. Urban, rural, tribal. And folks, we're just getting started. We're just getting started. And I mean it sincerely. I want to thank my Republican friends who voted for the law, and my Republican friends who voted against it as well.
Frickin' Maxine
But
Waters.
I'm
I hate
still,
that
I still get
person.
asked to fund the projects in those districts as well. But don't worry, I promised I'd be a president for all Americans. We'll fund these projects, and I'll see you at the groundbreaking.
Spartan brings up a good point because he
Look.
mentioned the tribal part of it. Isn't that sovereign nation now?
This law,
Yeah. I believe so.
this law will further unite all of America. Projects like Brent Spence
Did he
Bridge
just say he
in
was going to build a
Kentucky
wall?
over the
Did I
Ohio
miss
River,
something?
built 60 years ago.
I think so,
Badly
yeah.
needed repairs. One of the nation's most
I was
congested
talking
freight
shit,
routes,
so I missed it.
carrying $2 billion worth of freight
Maybe
every
I do like
single
Biden.
day across the Ohio River. And folks, I've been talking about fixing it for decades, but we're really finally going to get it done. I went there last month with Democrats and Republicans, and from both states, to deliver a commitment of $1.6 billion for this project. And while I was there, I met a young woman named Sarah,
Can we
who's here
worry
tonight. I
about
don't
the
know where
water
Sarah
in
is.
Flint,
Is she up in
Michigan
the box?
first?
I don't know. Sarah, how are you? Well, Sarah, for 30 years, I learned, she told me she'd been a proud member of the Iron Workers Local 44, known as,
Who keeps Sarah in the box?
the Cowboys in the Sky. The folks
That's
who
where I
built-
keep my black friends too.
built Cincinnati's skyline. Sarah said she can't wait to be 10 stories above the Ohio River building that new bridge. God bless her. That's pride. And that's what we're also building. We're building back pride. Look, we're also replacing poisonous lead
Yeah, well, that
pipes.
month is until
that go into
June.
10 million homes in America. 400,000 school and child care centers. So every child in America can drink the water instead of having pain. Look,
Can you hear Xena snoring through my mic?
We're
It's
making
really
sure-
loud.
No, I can't actually.
Okay.
we're making sure that every community in America has access to affordable high-speed internet. No parent should have to drive by McDonald's parking lot to help them do their homework online with their kids, which many thousands were doing across the country. And when we do these projects, and again I get criticized for this, but I make no excuses for it, we're going to buy American. We're going to buy America. Folks,
Oh, we're trying to get her up closer to the mic so she can snore into that.
Yeah. She's my co-host,
It's
so she wanted to
totally-
make an appearance.
it's totally consistent with international trade rules. Buy America has been the law since 1933, but for too long, past administrations, Democrat and Republican, have fought to get around it. Not anymore. Tonight, I'm announcing new standards that require all construction materials used in federal infrastructure projects to be made in America. Made in America. I mean it.
I would like to see where that actually
Lumber.
happens
Glass,
That's always been lip
drywall,
service.
fiber optic
It,
cable.
it is every single
And I watch
time. I've never
American
heard it
roads,
come
bridges,
true.
and American highways are going to be made with American products as well. Folks, my economic plan is about investing in places and people that have been forgotten. So many of you listening to me tonight, I know you feel it. So many of you felt like you've just simply been forgotten. Amid the economic upheaval
This is
of the
never
past
gonna
4
happen.
decades, too many people have been left behind.
I don't know why I'm
and treated
surprised
like
by
they're
that.
invisible. Maybe that's you watching from home. Remember the jobs that went away. You remember them, don't you?
Yeah, you signed
Folks at
bills
home
or-
remember them. You wonder whether
I
the
say, you
path
signed
even
legislation
exists
to make it
anymore
happen.
for your children to
Luke
get ahead.
is right in the chat. What
without
about
having to
American
move
oil?
away.
Can we start using some of that?
Well, that's why I get that. That's why we're building an economy where no one's left behind. Jobs are coming back. pride is coming back because choices we made in the last several years. You know, this is, in my view, a blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America and make a real difference in your lives at home. For example, too many of you lay in bed at night like my dad did, staring at the ceiling, wondering what in God's name happens if
Jill
your
looks like she's
spouse
holding her
gets
breath,
cancer,
waiting for her husband to mess up.
or your child gets
And
deadly
there's,
ill,
speaking of messing up, there's
or
Fetterman.
something happens to you. What are you
Speaking
going
of
to
being
get
messed
money
up,
to pay for those medical bills? Or you're going to have to sell the house or try to
he
get a
looks
second
like that
mortgage on it.
sad clown. That's.
I get it.
Do you know who
I
I'm
get it.
talking about? That clown that
The Inflation
sings?
Reduction Act that
Yeah.
I signed into law,
That's what Fetterman looks
we're
like.
taking on powerful interests to bring healthcare costs down so you can sleep better at night with more security. You know, we pay more for prescription drugs than any nation in the world.
it.
Let me say it again. We pay more for prescription drugs than any major nation on earth.
Repeat the
For
line.
example, 1 in 10 Americans has diabetes. Many of you in this chamber do,
Fetterman, please,
and in
he's
the
alive.
audience. But every day, millions need insulin to control their diabetes so they can literally stay alive. Insulin's been around for over 100 years. The guy who invented it didn't even patent it because he wanted it to be available for everyone. It cost the drug companies roughly $10 a vial to make that insulin. Package it and all, you may get up to $13. But Big Pharma has been unfairly charging people hundreds of dollars, $400 to
I wish I could've
$500
got
a
Britt on
month,
for this because
making record
she'd be
profits.
screaming right now.
Not
Yeah,
anymore.
absolutely.
Not anymore. So many things that we did are only now coming to fruition. We said we were doing this, and we said we passed the law to do it, but people didn't know because the law didn't take effect until January 1 of this year. We capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors on Medicare.
After we took away the cap on the previous administration.
People are just
Exactly,
finding
Ed.
out.
Exactly.
I'm sure you're getting the same calls I'm getting. Look, there are millions of other Americans who do not or are not on Medicare.
Listen to all those
including
caveats.
200,000 young people
For seniors on
with
Medicare.
type 1 diabetes need this insulin to stay alive. Let's finish the job this time.
I can't
Let's
believe
cap
Bernie's
the cost of
still
insulin for everybody at $35.
Because he wore his mask.
Folks, and Big Pharma's still going to do very well, I promise you all. I
Yeah, we
promise
know
you they're
because
going
you
to do
tried to
very
mandate a
well.
vaccine for him.
This law also
And now they have
caps and won't even go into effect
mitochondrial.
in
I can't say
2025.
the word.
Costs,
another
out-of-pocket drug costs for seniors on Medicare at a maximum of
I can't say it. I'm
$2,000
trying
a
to-
year. You don't have to pay more than $2,000 no matter how much your drug costs
How
are.
do you say that word?
Because you know why? You all know it.
Carditis.
Yes, I
Many of
read it all the
you,
time.
like many
I've
of
never
my
said it out
family,
loud
have
before, I don't
cancer.
think.
You know the drugs
say
can
it
range
without the
from
R.
10,
So
11,
embarrassing.
14, $15,000.
If you guys didn't know
The
I was
cancer
blonde
drugs.
before, now you do.
If drug prices rise faster than inflation, drug companies are going to have to pay
Myocarditis.
Medicare back the difference. We're finally giving Medicare the power to negotiate drug prices. Bringing down
Yeah, the first government program that doesn't have a
prescription
no
drug
bid
costs
contract.
doesn't just save seniors money,
What a concept.
it cuts the federal deficit by billions of dollars,
He does this. The creepy fucking
by
whisper
hundreds
thing.
of billions of dollars.
the federal
Because these prescription drugs are drugs purchased by Medicare to keep their commitment to the seniors. Well, guess what? Instead of paying $400 or $500 a month, you're paying $15. That's a lot of savings for the federal government. And by the way, why wouldn't we want that? Now, some members here are threatening, and I know it's not an official party position, so I'm going to exaggerate, but threatening to
first
repeal
time,
the
I'm not
Inflation
gonna lie.
Reduction Act. As my coach, that's okay. That's fair. As my football coach used to say, lots of luck in your senior year. Make no mistake, if you try anything to raise the cost of prescription drugs, I will veto it.
What is a prescription drug?
Look,
It's probably for people with myocarditis.
I'm pleased to say that more Americans have health insurance now than ever in history. A record 16 million people are enrolled in the Affordable Care Act. And thanks to the law I signed last year, saving millions are saving $800 a year on their premiums. And by the way,
That's because
that law was written
ACA jacked
and the
everybody's
benefit expires in
private
2025.
premiums up, so they can't afford
So
them.
my plea to some of you, at least in this audience, let's finish the job and make these savings permanent. Expand coverage of Medicaid.
I don't know what he's like. I got my prescriptions last month, and it was usually like $30-something. It was $100 freaking dollars. $100, Ed.
The Inflation Reduction Act is
For
also the
drugs.
most significant investment ever in
I
climate
paid
change.
$100 for drugs. but that's just-
Ever.
But the doctor didn't prescribe them.
Lowering utility bills, creating American jobs, leading the world to a clean energy future. I visited the devastating aftermath of record floods, droughts, storms, and wildfires from Arizona to Mexico to all the way up to the Canadian border. More timber has been burned, as I've observed from helicopters, than the entire state of Missouri. And we don't have global warming? Not a problem. In addition to emergency recovery,
What?
from Puerto Rico to Florida to Idaho, we're
What's
rebuilding
the
for the long
connection
term. New electric grids that are able to weather major storms and not prevent those forest fires. Roads and water systems withstand the next big flood. Clean energy to cut pollution and create jobs in communities often left behind. We're going to build 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations installed across the country.
Talk to California. They need some electric grids.
And we're helping families save more than $1,000 a year with tax credits to purchase electric vehicles and efficient appliances, energy-efficient appliances. Historic conservation efforts to be responsible stewards of our land. Let's face reality. The climate crisis doesn't care if you're in a red or blue state. It's an existential threat. We have an
Are we 20
obligation,
minutes
not
in
to
yet?
ourselves, but
Did
to
I
our
lose the
children
bet?
and grandchildren to confront it.
Yeah.
I'm proud
we
of
are,
how,
yeah.
how America at last is stepping up to the challenge. We're still going to need oil and gas for a while. But guess what? No, we do. But there's so much more to do. We got to finish the job. We
I don't
pay for
have
these
children or
investments in our
grandchildren. I'm
future
gonna
by
burn it all
finally
down.
making the wealthiest and biggest corporations begin to pay their fair share.
What
This
is the fair
began-
share? I need a number for that.
No idea.
I keep hearing fair share. What is the number?
Look, I'm a capitalist.
All of
No,
it.
you're
They
not.
want
Pay
all
your
of
fair
it.
share. I think a lot of you at home agree with me and many people that you know. The tax system is not fair. It is not fair.
It's not fair.
Look, the idea that in 2020, 55 of the largest corporations in America, the Fortune 500, made $40 billion in profits and paid zero in federal taxes? Zero?
Citation needed,
Folks,
please.
It's simply not fair.
Oh, and of course, Warren is the one.
But now, because of the law I signed, billion-dollar companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. God love them. 15%. That's less than a nurse pays. And let me be crystal clear. I said at the very beginning, under my plans, as long as I'm president, nobody earning less than $400,000 will pay an additional penny in taxes. Nobody, not one penny.
I've already seen what my
But
tax.
let's finish the job. There's more to
website.
do.
I got all my tax
Let's
papers
reward
right here.
work,
I haven't
not
even
just
started
wealth.
doing the taxes yet.
Pass
I've
my
done a
proposal
preliminary, but
for
my
the
accountant
billionaire
will go
minimum
through mine.
tax.
And
You
yes, I'm
know,
already paying more.
There's
I already know.
1,000 billionaires in America.
don't
It's up
have
from
an
about
accountant.
600 in the beginning of the term. But no billionaire should be paying a lower tax rate than a school teacher or firefighter. know you aren't enthusiastic about that, but think about it. Think about it. Have you noticed Big Oil just reported its profits, record profits? Last year they made $200 billion in the midst of a global energy crisis. I think it's outrageous. Why? They invested too little of that profit to increase domestic production. And when I talk to a couple of them, they say, we're afraid you're going to shut down all the oil wells, all the oil refineries anyway, so why should we invest in them? I said, we're going to need oil for at least another decade. And that's going to exceed and beyond that. We're going to need it. Production. If they had, in fact, invested in the production to keep gas prices down, instead, they used the record profits to buy back their own stock, rewarding their CEOs and shareholders. Corporations ought to do the right thing. That's why I propose we quadruple the tax on corporate stock buybacks and encourage long-term investments. They'll still make considerable profit.
I just switched my stream from to somebody who's streaming it on Twitch because I know the delay is shorter, so I think I might be. I don't know if I'm ahead of you or behind you now.
Taxpayers. I just signed a law to reduce the deficit by $114 billion by cracking down on wealthy tax cheats. That's being fiscally responsible. In the last 2 years, my administration has cut the deficit by more than $1.7 trillion.
Now it's time to bash Trump. That's this part of the speech.
Under the previous administration, the American deficit went up 4 years in a row. Because those record deficits, no president added more to the national debt in any 4 years than my predecessor. Nearly 25% of the entire national debt that took over 200 years to accumulate was added by just one administration alone, the last one. They're the facts. Check it out. Check it out. How did Congress respond to that debt? They did the right thing. They lifted the debt ceiling 3 times without preconditions or crisis.
That was not the right thing.
They paid American bills to prevent an economic disaster in the country. So tonight I'm asking the Congress to follow suit. Let's commit here tonight to the full faith and credit of the United States of America will never, ever be questioned. Some of my Republican friends want to take the economy hostage. I get it, unless I agree to their economic plans. All of you at home should know what those plans are. Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office.
This is getting spicy.
I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant.
Okay, I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene, but
by individuals.
She needs to calm down and just sit there and listen.
I'm not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you.
Who put a woman in charge?
Look, folks, the idea is that we're not going to be moved into being threatened to default on the debt if we don't respond. Folks, as we all apparently agree, Social Security and Medicare is off the books now, right? They're not to be stopped.
It always has been. One congressman. One single, and he got rebuked.
We got unanimity.
I don't ever remember booing at a State of the Union before. I could be wrong.
Social Security and Medicare are a lifeline for millions of seniors. Americans have to pay into them from the very first paycheck they started. So tonight, let's all agree, and we apparently are. Let's stand up for seniors.
And then they stood up for these
Stand up and show them. We'll not cut Social Security. We will not cut Medicare. Those benefits belong to the American people. They earned it. And if anyone tries to cut Social Security, which apparently no one's going to do, and if anyone tries to cut Medicare, I'll stop them. I'll veto it. And look, I'm not going to allow them to be taken away. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. But apparently it's not going to be a problem.
That's because
Next month, when I offer my fiscal plan, I ask my Republican friends to lay down their plan as well. I really mean it. Let's sit down together and discuss our mutual plans together. Let's do that. Bills. Stopping $1 billion surprise bills per month so far. We're protecting seniors' life savings by cracking down on nursing homes that commit fraud, endanger patient safety, prescribe drugs that are not needed. Millions of Americans can now save thousands of dollars because they can finally get a hearing aid over the counter without a prescription. Look, capitalism without competition is not capitalism. It's extortion. It's exploitation. Last year, I cracked down with the help of many of you on shipping companies that were making you pay higher prices for every good coming into the country. I signed a bipartisan bill that cut shipping costs by 90%. Let's make sure working parents can afford to raise a family with sick days, paid family medical leave, affordable child care. That's going to enable millions of more people to go and stay at work. And let's restore the full
Now it looks like
child
it's
tax
back.
credit, which gave tens of millions of parents some
Are we
breathing
back,
room.
people? Let us know in
And
the
cut
chat.
child poverty in half to the lowest level in history. And by the way,
Ed's gone.
when we do all these things, we increase productivity. We increase economic growth. So let's finish the job.
All right. Well, I guess it's my
We get
show
more
now.
families access to
I'm the
affordable
captain now.
quality housing.
I still have microphones.
Let's get seniors
Oh.
who want to stay in their homes the care they need to do so. Let's give more breathing room to millions of family caregivers looking after their loved ones. Pass my plan so we get seniors and people with disabilities the home
All right, I
care and
think we're back,
services they
actually.
need.
Now it's saying we're
And
gonna put
support
right there.
And we're back.
the workers who are doing God's work.
All right.
These plans are
What
fully
did I
paid
miss?
for and we can afford to do
diagnose
them.
my connection problem.
Restoring the dignity of work means making
I
education
wasn't
an
paying
affordable ticket to
attention.
the
Sorry.
middle class.
I was sure seeing
You know,
what
when
was
we
going
made
on with
public
the
education, 12
stream.
years of it, universal in the last century,
The chat will tell us.
we made the best educated, best paid, we became the best educated, best paid nation
That's
in
the
the world.
worst that's been.
He was
The rest
he was
of the world's
talking
caught
about getting rid of
It's caught
resort
up.
fees. I liked that.
Jill, my wife, who teaches
He's
full
not going to
time,
actually do it
as an expression.
'cause freedom.
I hope I get it
but
right, kid.
It'd be nice.
Any nation that out-educates us is going to out-compete us. Any nation that out-educates is going to out-compete us. Folks, we all know 12 years of education is not enough to win the economic competition of 21st century. You want to have the best educated workforce, let's finish the job by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old. Studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school and go on to earn a 2 or 4 year degree, no matter their background they came from. Let's give public school teachers a raise.
Yeah, but then you got to negotiate with the taxpayer for it. We'll do some things.
We're making progress by reducing student debt, increasing Pell Grants for working and middle class families. Let's finish the job and connect students to career opportunities starting in high school. Provide access to 2 years of community college, the best career training in America, in addition to being a pathway to a 4-year degree. Let's offer every American a path to a good career, whether they go to college or not. And folks, in the midst of the COVID crisis, when schools were closed and we were shutting down everything, let's recognize how far we came in the fight against the pandemic itself. While the virus is not gone, thanks to the resilience of the American people and the ingenuity of medicine, We've broken the COVID grip on us. COVID deaths are down by 90%. We've saved millions of lives and opened up our country. We opened our country back up. And soon we'll end the public health emergency. But
It should be ended already.
that's called a public health emergency. But we'll remember the toll and pain that's never going to go away. More than 1 million Americans lost their lives to COVID. 1 million. Families grieving, children orphaned, empty chairs at the dining room table constantly reminding you that she used to sit there. Remembering them, we remain vigilant. We still need to monitor dozens of variants and support new vaccines and treatments. So Congress needs to fund these efforts and keep America safe. And as we emerge from this crisis stronger, we're also got to double down on prosecuting criminals who stole relief money meant to keep workers and small businesses afloat. Before I came to office, you remember, during that campaign, the big issue was about inspector generals
Crack is whack.
who would protect taxpayers' dollars who were sidelined. They were fired. Many people said we don't need them. And fraud became rampant. Last year, I told you the watchdogs are back. Since then, we've recovered billions of taxpayers' dollars. Now let's triple the anti-fraud strike force going after these criminals, double the statute of limitations on these crimes, and crack down on identity fraud by criminal syndicates stealing billions of dollars from the American people. And the data shows that for every dollar we put into fighting fraud, the taxpayers get back at least 10 times as much. It matters. It matters. Look, COVID left its scars, like the spike in violent crime in 2020, the first year of the pandemic.
That was after you sent.
We have an
your
obligation
people
to
out
make sure
riot.
all people are safe.
Yeah.
Public safety depends on public trust, as all of us know. But too often that trust is violated. Joining us tonight are the parents of Tyree Nichols. Welcome. We had to bury Tyree last
I don't
week.
want to talk over him, but imagine losing your son. It was a week and a half
many
ago,
of
2
you
weeks ago,
personally know,
and then being
there's no
dragged
words to
out as a
describe
political pawn
the heartache or
for
grief
this
of
guy's
losing a
narrative.
child. But imagine.
It hasn't even been a month
Imagine
yet
if you
since
lost
their
that
son
child
was
at the hands of the
beaten to
law.
death. It's insane
Imagine.
to me.
Having to worry whether your son or daughter came home from walking down the street, or playing in the park, or just driving a car. Most of us in here.
And also, I got the talk too,
never had to
so
have
it's
the
not just
talk.
black people that get the talk. It's anybody that lives in a city gets the
that
talk.
brown and black parents have had to have with their children.
I'm
Bo,
so
Hunter, Ashley, my children.
I'm infuriated
I never
by
had
this
to have
whole
the talk
part of
with
the
them.
speech.
I never had to tell them if a police officer pulls you over, turn your interior lights on right away. Don't reach for your license. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Imagine having to worry like that every single time your kid got in a car. Here's what Tyree's mother shared with me when I spoke
I'm
to
sorry
her.
for the loss of your grandfather.
When I asked her how she finds the
Illiterate.
courage to carry on and speak out. The faith of God, she said her son was, quote, a beautiful soul, and something good will come of this. Imagine how much courage and character that takes.
These poor
To us,
people.
to all of us.
Oh, they're
We all want the
volunteering
same
for
thing.
this. They're loving
Neighborhoods
this.
free of violence. Law enforcement.
I don't think so.
Earns the
I mean, they're
community's
there
trust.
voluntarily. Don't get me wrong,
Just
but they
as
were
every cop when they
manipulated
pin
into
on that
doing this.
badge in the morning has a right to be able to go home at night. So does
And I
everybody
believe they'll
else out
regret
there.
it later, but we'll see.
Our children.
They got a free trip to Washington, D.C. They probably haven't staying at the Four Seasons or something.
Equal protection under the law is a covenant we have with each other in America. We know police officers put their lives on the line every single night and day. And we know we ask them in many cases to do too much to be counselors, social workers, psychologists, responding to drug overdoses, mental health crises, and so much more. In one sense, we ask much too much of them. I know most cops and their families are good, decent, honorable people, the vast majority.
Yeah, weren't you
They
on
risk.
the ACAB line like 2 years ago? 3 years ago at this point?
Who, me?
No,
Oh.
that old fucker.
And
Like,
they risk their
no,
lives.
but I'm closer to it now
time they put
than I
that
was
shield
then.
on. But what happened to Tyree in Memphis happens too often. We have to do better.
Yeah, he was on the
Give law
defund the
enforcement
police
the real training they need.
Which,
Hold
by
them
the
to
way,
higher
defunding the
standards.
police is why Tyree Nichols
Help
died.
them succeed in keeping us safe. We also need more first responders and professionals to address the growing mental health, substance abuse challenges. More resources to reduce violent crime and gun crime. More community intervention programs. More investment in housing, education, and job training. All this can help prevent violence in the first place. And when police officers or police departments violate the public trust, they must be held accountable. With the support of the families of victims, civil rights groups, and law enforcement, I signed an executive order for all federal officers, banning chokeholds, restricting no-knock warrants, and other key elements of the George Floyd Act. Let's commit ourselves to make the words of Tyler's mom true. Something good must come from this.
Did he just say
Something
Tyler?
good.
I didn't hear it,
And
but
all of
maybe.
us. All of us.
The police reform is what killed their son.
I'm pretty sure him banging the cop's wife probably didn't help either.
Folks, it's difficult, but it's simple. All of us in this chamber, we need to rise to this moment.
Cops,
can't turn
if
away.
the cops were trained and they weren't
Let's
hiring
do what we
felons,
know
this
in our
wouldn't have happened to
hearts.
him.
We need to
But they
do-
took away their funding and
Let's
they
come
can't pay
together
them
to
enough.
finish
So
the
they're
job on
hiring
police
what
reform.
should be mall
Do
security
something.
guards
Do
who have
something.
felony records for
That was the plea of
gangbanging
parents
as
who lost their
police
children in
officers.
Uvalde.
They're
I met
just
with every
gang
one of them.
members with uniforms.
Do something about gun violence. Thank God. Thank God we did. Passing the most sweeping gun safety law in 3 decades. That includes things like that the majority of responsible gun owners already support. Enhanced background checks for 18 to 21 years old. Red flag laws, keeping guns out of the hands of people who are a danger to themselves and others. But we know our work is not done. Joining us tonight is Brandon
It's not
Say,
done until we've
a
disarmed every
26-year-old hero. Brandon put his college dreams on hold to be at his mom's side. His mom's side when she was dying from cancer. And Brandon,
He wouldn't have had to do that if
works
he
in
was
the dance
armed.
studio started by his grandparents. And 2 weeks ago, during the Lunar New Year celebrations, he heard the studio door close. And he saw a man standing there pointing.
I know I'm a couple
semi-automatic
seconds ahead of
pistol
you.
at him.
You'll get there.
He thought he was going to die, but he thought about the people inside. And in that instant, he found the courage to act and wrestled a semi-automatic pistol away from the gunman who had already killed 11 people in
That's a
another dance
lie.
studio.
Mass shootings did not go
11.
down.
He saved lives. It's time we do the same. Ban assault weapons now. Ban them now.
Yeah, abolish immigration. How about
For
that?
all.
Give everyone an assault weapon and abolish immigration. I'm on board.
I led the fight to do that in 1994. And in 10 years, that ban was law and mass shootings went down. After we let it expire in the Republican administration,
You're more
mass
than a couple
shootings
seconds ahead
tripled.
of me, by the
Let's
way.
finish the job
Oh.
and ban these assault weapons.
I don't know
And
what
let's
to
also
do.
come together on immigration. Make it a bipartisan issue once again. We know we now have a record number of personnel working to secure the border, arresting 8,000 human smugglers, seizing over 23,000 pounds of fentanyl in just the last several months. We've launched a new border plan last month. Unlawful migration from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela has come down 97% as a consequence of that. But American border problems won't be fixed until Congress acts. If we don't pass my comprehensive immigration reform, at least pass my plan to provide the equipment and officers to secure the border. And a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those on temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Here in the People's House, it's our duty to protect all the people's rights and freedoms. Congress must restore the right and Congress must restore the right.
I found a different stream, so we'll see where we're at with this one.
And protect Roe v. Wade.
My thing is, like he said, well, pass pathway to citizenship for the dreamers. Yeah, but then you can't dangle it around like a
limited constitutional right.
Yeah.
Every election
The Vice President and I are doing everything to protect access to reproductive health care and safeguard patient safety.
Oh, now we're at abortion.
But already more than a dozen states are enforcing extreme abortion bans. Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes an
I need to go get a
ban,
drink,
I
Ed.
will
I'll be right
veto it.
back. I can't. I'll be right back.
It's also passed the Bipartisan Equality Act to ensure LGBTQ Americans, especially transgender young people, can live with safety and dignity. Our strength is not just the example of our power, but the power of our example. Let's remember the world's watching. I spoke in this chamber 1 year ago, just days after Vladimir Putin unleashed his brutal attack against Ukraine. A murderous assault, evoking images of death and destruction Europe suffered in World War II. Putin's invasion has been a test for the ages, a test for America, a test for the world. Would we stand for the most basic of principles? Would we stand for sovereignty? Would we stand for the right of people to live free of tyranny? Would we stand for the defense of democracy? For such defense matters to us because it keeps peace and prevents open season on would-be aggressors and threatens our prosperity. 1 year later, we know the answer. Yes, we would, and we did. We did. And together, we did what America always does at our best. We led. We united NATO. We built a global coalition. We stood against Putin's aggression. We stood with the Ukrainian people
to not letting them kill babies.
By the Ukrainian's ambassador to the United States. She represents not just her nation, but the courage of her people. Our ambassador is here, united. We're united in our support of your country. Will you stand so we can all take a look at you? Thank you. Because we're going to stand with you.
Who's this fat chick?
As long as it takes.
I don't know, I missed it.
She's very rotund
Our nation's
in the
working for
rotunda.
more freedom, more dignity, more peace.
Nicely
Not
done.
just in Europe, but
Thank
everywhere.
you.
Before
It's
I
the
came
rum.
into office, the story was about how the People's Republic of China was increasing its power, and America was failing in the world. Not anymore. We made clear, and I made clear in my personal conversations, which have been many, with President Xi, that we seek competition.
That was
not
Ukraine's
conflict.
ambassador. She looked like a
But I
fat
will make
Mexican.
no apologies that we're investing to make America stronger. Investing in American innovation.
You wanted another
will
strike, right?
define the future that China intends to be dominating.
That's why you
Investing
invited
in
me
our
on?
alliances,
I've got the
working with our
backup channel.
allies to protect advanced technologies so they will not be used against us. Modernizing our military to safeguard stability and deter aggression. Today, We're in the strongest position in decades to compete with China or anyone else in the world. Anyone else in the world.
No, Quest, that rum you bought me is gone. It was delicious, thank you. This is the rum Stephen brought me the last time he was here.
I'm committed to work with China where we can advance American interests and benefit the world, but make no mistake about it.
Hopefully, in a couple years when we do this,
clear
there'll
last
be a bottle
week, if
that says
China
100
threatens our
acres distillery
sovereignty,
on it.
we will act to protect our
Okay.
country, and we did.
I'll tell you that more about that between the speeches.
Look, let's be clear. Winning the competition should unite all of us. We face serious
Speaking of
challenges
strike,
across
check
the
out Ron
world.
Holton's comment in the chat.
But in the past 2 years, democracies have become stronger, not weaker. Autocracy has grown weaker,
Oh.
not stronger. Name me a
Do you want me to
world
read it out
leader
loud?
who changed places with Xi Jinping.
Kind of.
Name me one. Name me one.
Oh,
see.
angry
America's rallying the
Alzheimer's.
world to meet those challenges, from climate to global health, to food insecurity, to terrorism, to territorial aggression. Allies are stepping up, spending more, and doing more. Look, the bridges we're forming between partners in the Pacific and those in the Atlantic, and those who bet against America are learning how wrong they are. It's never, ever been a good bet to bet against America. Never.
Unless
you
have a balloon.
The bipartisanship assumed
then you can go
was
against
impossible. But I never believed it. That's why a year ago I offered a unity
we might
agenda
have to go to
the nation,
Oklahoma.
and I stood here. We made real progress together. We passed a law making it easy for doctors to prescribe effective treatments for opioid addiction. We passed the gun safety law, making historic investments in mental health. We launched the ARPA-H drive for breakthrough in the fights against cancer, Alzheimer's, and diabetes, and so much more. We passed the Heath Robinson Pact Act, named after the late Iraq War veteran whose story about exposure to toxic burn kits I shared here last year. I understand something about those burn pits, but there's so much more to do. We can do it together. Joining us tonight is a father named Doug from Newton, New Hampshire. He wrote Jill, my wife, a letter, and me as well, about his courageous daughter, Courtney. A contagious laugh, his sister's best friend, her sister's best friend. He shared the story all too familiar to millions of Americans and many of you in
can
the
switch
audience.
from day to day now.
Courtney discovered
True.
pills in high school. It spiraled into addiction and eventually death from a fentanyl overdose. She was just 20 years old. Describing the last 8 years without her, Doug said, "There's no worse pain."
You want
Yet their
to talk about
family
the
has turned
border and
pain
then
to
talk about a
purpose.
fentanyl death?
Working to end the stigma and change laws.
One does
Told
not
us he
have to
wants
do with the other,
start a
Ed. Come
journey toward
on.
American recovery.
Why would you make that
Doug, we're
connection?
with you. Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year.
Good, to do something about the goddamn border. Yeah, there we go.
You got it. So let's launch a major surge to stop fentanyl production in the sale and trafficking.
70,000? Where is he getting these numbers from?
Inspection car
I'd like
guards,
to
stop
see where he's
pills and
getting that
powder
number.
at the
70,000
border.
just from fentanyl. That sounds not right.
That does sound a little bit high.
Working with couriers like FedEx.
No pun intended.
to inspect
Sounds a
more
little high,
packages
like some
for
other
drugs.
numbers I've heard recently.
Strong penalties to crack down on fentanyl trafficking. Second, let's do more on mental health, especially for our children. When millions of young people are struggling with bullying, violence, trauma, we give them greater access to mental health care at their schools. We must finally hold social media companies accountable for experimenting they're doing running children for profit. It's time to pass bipartisan legislation to stop big tech from collecting personal data on our kids and teenagers online. Ban targeted advertising to children and impose stricter limits on the personal data that companies collect on all of us.
Or have
Third.
parents be parents.
Let's do more to keep this nation's one truly sacred obligation, to equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home. Job training, job placement for veterans and their spouses as they come to return to civilian life. Helping veterans afford the rent, because no one should be homeless in America, especially someone who served the country.
We've never taken care of our veterans in this country.
Dennis McDonough is here, of the VA. We had a first real discussion when I asked him to take the job. I'm glad he did. We were
And
losing
of course,
up to
that's so
25
far down
veterans
on
a day
his list of things he
suicide.
said tonight. We're not going to do it
Now
again.
we're losing 17 a day to the silent scourge of suicide. 17 veterans a day.
Dude, I
Are
have done
committing
more for suicide
suicide.
prevention than you have. Shut the fuck up.
More than all the people being killed in the wars.
Are you doing a stream this year?
Folks,
I'm trying to.
VA is doing everything it
Gotta move
can,
yet.
including expanding mental health screening, proven programs that recruits veterans to help other veterans understand what they're going through, get them the help they need. We got to do more. And fourth, last year, Jill and I reignited the cancer moonshot that I was able to start with President Obama asked me to lead our administration on this issue. Our goal is to cut the cancer death rates at least by 50% in the next 25
That's not
years.
what you said last year. You said last
Turn
year.
more
"We're gonna
cancers
end
from death
cancer."
sentences to treatable diseases. Provide more support for patients and their families. It's personal to so many of us in this audience. Joining us are Morris and Candice, an Irishman and the daughter of immigrants from Panama. They met and fell in love in New York City and got married in the same chapel Jill and I got married in New York City. Kindred spirits. He wrote us a letter about his little daughter Ava, and I saw her just before I came over. She was
I
just
bet her
a year
name's
old when
Candace,
she was
and he just
diagnosed with rare
mispronounced it.
kidney disease, cancer. After 26 blood transfusions, 11 rounds of radiation, 8 rounds of chemo, 1 kidney removed, giving a 5% survival rate. He wrote how in the darkest moments he thought, if she goes, I can't stay. Many of you have been through that as well. Jill and I understand that like so many of you.
8 rounds of
We
Keno.
read Jill's book describing our family's cancer journey and how we tried to
Jill
steal
young for
moments of
gambling?
joy where we could with Bo. For them, that glimmer of joy was the half smile of their baby girl. It meant everything to them. They never gave up hope. Little Ava never gave up hope. She turns 4 next month. They just found out Ava's beating the odds, is on her way to being cured of cancer.
I think that
And
was a
she's
sniff.
watching from the White House tonight if she's not asleep already.
How much you want to make a bet he sniffed that
lies
kid
we can
before he
save.
came out on stage? He definitely sniffed that
Lucid
kid.
right now.
With the lives we can save and the lives we've lost, let this be a
I
truly
know, because I was
American
just over there
moment
sniffing
that
her.
rallies the country and the world together and prove that we can still do big things. 20 years ago, under the leadership of President Bush and countless advocates and champions, he undertook a bipartisan effort through PEPFAR to transform the global fight against HIV/AIDS. It's been a huge success. He thought big. He thought large. He moved.
Okay, now the camera can pan to Pete.
I believe we
To
can do
Mayor
the
Pete.
same thing with cancer.
No, you don't think they're going to do that?
Let's end cancer as we know it. Cure some cancers once and for all. Folks,
Your
one
chat
reason
is
why we were able
hilarious.
to do all
Run,
these
Forrest,
things.
run.
our democracy itself. It's the most fundamental thing of all. With democracy, everything's possible. Without it, nothing is. The last few years, our democracy has been threatened and attacked, put at risk, put to the test
January
in
6th?
this very room on January the 6th.
I'm in.
And then
Let's
just
go.
a few months ago,
He did it.
an unhinged big lie, assailed and unleashed a political violence, the home of the then Speaker of the House of Representatives. using the very same language the insurrectionists used
jeez.
as they stalked these halls and chanted on January 6th. Here tonight in this chamber is a man who bears the scars of that brutal attack, but is as tough and as strong and as resilient as they get. My friend Paul Pelosi. Paul, stand up.
Wow. Wow.
But such a
I
heinous
almost don't
act should
recognize
have
him
never
without drinking a
happened.
hammer in his hand.
We must all speak out. There's no place for political violence in America. We have to protect the right to vote, not suppress the fundamental right. Honor the results of our elections, not subvert the will of the people. We have to uphold the rule of law and restore trust in our institutions of democracy. And we must give hate and extremism in any form.
I didn't
no
realize they were
safe harbor.
connecting Pepe with the far right. He's a leftist. Wasn't he like a tarot card reader
Democracy
leftist from San Francisco?
Must not be a partisan issue.
Yeah.
It's an American issue.
What?
Every generation of Americans has faced a moment where they have been
Wow.
called to protect our
He
democracy.
probably wore a
defend
red
it,
hat
stand
one
up
time
for
in
it.
high school, and that's
And
all it
this is our
takes.
moment.
Yeah.
My fellow Americans, we meet tonight at an inflection point, one of those moments that only a few generations ever face, where the direction we now take is going to decide the course of this nation for decades to come. We're not bystanders of history. We're not powerless before the forces that confront us. It's within our power of we, the people. We're facing the test of our time. We have to be the nation we've always been at our best. Optimistic, hopeful, forward-looking. A nation that embraces light over dark, hope over fear, unity over division, stability over chaos. We have to see each other not as enemies, but as fellow Americans.
As you just
good people.
ran out and called everybody
The only
January 6th
nation in the
enemies.
world built on an idea. The only one. Other nations are defined by geography, ethnicity. But we're the only nation based on an idea that all of us, every one of us, is created equal in the image of God. A nation that stands as a beacon of the world. A nation in a new age of possibilities. So I've come to fulfill my constitutional obligation to report in the State of the Union. And here's my report. Because the soul of this nation is strong, because the backbone of this nation is strong, because the people of this nation are strong, the State of the Union is strong.
Isn't that an understatement?
Line you should have gone out and that delivered without a problem.
Yep.
I'm not new to this place. I stand here tonight having served as
Yeah, you
long as
spent your
about
entire
any one
adult
of you
life
have
there.
ever served here. But I've never been more optimistic about our future, about the future of America. We just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America, and there's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
All right, so how are we feeling about the state of disunion?
Oh, Ed. I forgot how much this guy pisses me off. I haven't been watching politics lately, and I think I forgot how much I was going to be pissed off watching this when I said, yeah, I'll come on. Sure. Send me a link. I don't know how you do this every day without having ulcers.
I don't know who says I don't have ulcers, but by the way, chat too. What is now that we've finished with this? Most of you guys have been here for the entire speech. I mean, Ron Helton has been holding back, and he's been nice.
compared to the asshole Ron. Usually, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Ron.
But
We love Ron.
That's why I said we got to go to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's how we're going to hear what he really thinks they're going to do. Road trip?
I'll meet you there. If we both go just a little bit west, it's about halfway.
A couple things that I could see with that, like you had talked about the junk fees and everything, but a big part of that is, I mean, that is number one, that's private business, and number two, they are going to pass that along to their good customers at that point.
Absolutely.
And it's gonna tank interest rates for people who put money in, and it's going to raise interest rates for people who borrow money.
Exactly.
That's part of the problem that I have with that. There is nothing out there, as much as it does seem good on paper, that the government does that fixes anything.
But here's the thing. Why is the government trying to fix issues like resort fees? Why is the government even getting involved in something like that at all? Or even drug prices, for that matter. Like, the drug companies need... The government shouldn't have any say in that.
Well, full on, and I mean straight out on that, it's a vote buy. And a big thing, a part to talk about with that is when they do things like that, they do it in times when they know it can't pass. It's the same thing with all the crap that the House is doing under Kevin McCarthy right now. All the bills that are running out that are getting passed that aren't going to go anywhere because they can go back, they can vote by, they can come and say, hey, look what we tried to do that the evil Democrats stopped.
Exactly.
And then it's nowhere. So I'm going to get the other screen up here because allegedly...
And of course, he's bringing up the assault weapons, which aren't even a thing, by the way. Define that, Mr. Joe Biden, because my AR-15 fires the same bullets in the same capacity at the same speed. It's scary and black. That's the only difference.
Oh, man, I was going to go somewhere with that. But, you know, I want to keep my YouTube channel. I'm just going to have
if you like this sort of commentary and you want to hear about crime statistics, come on over to my true crime channel. I'll link it again. I just linked it in the chat. But we do know that 13% of... Actually, it's more around 6% because it's not old people, it's not babies, it's not women. And 53% of the violent crime in this country is committed by one people group. And we'll talk about it.
I do have the screen up here, so when they switch over and go to Sarah's speech, we can jump right into that.
Okay.
So, I do hope that they don't do the pageantry for very long, but I know like CBS and I'll actually put some volume up to it.
I've got a precursor to that with that speaker.
Yeah, if they go over quickly, I'll stick around, but I do have to get up early. And it's an hour later here than it is by you.
People got to witness what I got to see just a couple of weeks ago.
So yeah,
yes, West Fanning, I was talking about pit bulls, exactly.
What was the reaction there? For instance, we heard
I am planning, and I was supposed to have a meeting with the bank to figure out how to set bank accounts up for LLCs, but I've decided that, I'm going to start an LLC so I can start getting distillery equipment.
You could see it in their body
Oh, fun.
You could see it in their facial expressions.
For it.
When the heckling
Distillery
brewing and in group.
What are you going to be distilling and brewing?
Went along when Marjorie Taylor Greene yelled liar.
I'm going to start, I think, because I don't really need a license until I sell it. But I'm going to make a batch of rum because I know that'll be the quickest.
It was jarring.
And you know you can give some... I'm like a rum connoisseur over here, so I can do a little taste test and let you know how it is.
Members of Congress were trapped on
But
January
yeah, I mean,
6,
it's the quickest.
2021.
So I'll know if I can actually effectively do something like that or not.
Who did not
Yeah.
stand and did not applaud. We are
But
2
yeah, I
years
want to
later,
go
there's a
into
black
doing
metal
beers,
fence
craft
surrounding
sodas,
this compound
wines,
in a post-January
all the
6
major
world.
liquors.
And there still seems to be a wedge over over political violence, political attacks.
It's funny. I made a joke
To a
that
degree,
I
January
don't want to
6th
be left
itself.
alone, live on 100 acres, and make
Scott
liquor.
McFarland, thank you.
That's all that I
know
want
now
to
the
do.
president speaking to
I
his
just
top
kind of looked up and said,
military
"Oh,
advisors,
well,
including the chairman
it's
of the
actually
Joint
not that
Chiefs
hard
of
to make
Staff,
liquor."
General
So
Milley,
Yeah?
General
I'm
Milley,
going to
General
get the equipment. I'm
McConville,
going to do it right. I'm going to get the licensing right.
My dad used to do that as like a hobby, just in the garage. He would make his own beer.
from inside the House chamber.
It was disgusting, by the way. I don't know. I mean, it was a hobby.
Talking about his infrastructure program, pledging
Not that I
most of
ever
the
would have
material
stolen
should
beer
be made
from him
in
when I was a
America if
teenager.
there are a federal contract.
Well, and craft beer
prices
is a little
capping
bit different because it
insulin
doesn't
at
have the same kind of
$35
licensing.
a month, if you're on Medicare, and then talking
Mostly
about a
because
cap
the
of
governments have come out and said,
$2,000 a year
well, it's
for
incredibly
all drugs,
dangerous to
which has
make
gotta be very
liquor
popular among
because of the
seniors who are
distilling
facing
process.
high
You could
drug
blow your
prices.
house up.
That doesn't take effect until
It's not meth.
2026. So that's when we were talking about not feeling the economic benefits.
I
that the
have
the
seen a
president wants
still
to
operate,
read
and I
off
can
as
see where they're coming
accomplishments.
from with
That's one
that,
of the
but
problems with some of these
if you're
bills
not
is the
being
sequencing of
absolutely
it.
stupid
You know, I
about
thought,
it,
Nora, it was
Yeah.
also
You're not
interesting.
gonna
There
blow
was a
your
little
house
bit of
up either.
box checking, I
I
think.
mean, if
Abortion,
meth
which we
addicts
talked
can
about so
figure it
much in
out,
the
I'm
midterm
sure you
races.
could
Just 4
figure it
lines in
out.
this speech, perhaps
Like,
an
not that you're making
acknowledgement
meth. I'm just saying,
no
if they can figure out how to make
legislation is
meth, you
likely
could
on
figure
either
out how to make
side to
rum.
and make it to his desk, but
Yeah.
he did say he'd veto it
I
if
gotta take you
somehow
down
a
just a
ban
little
passed the
bit
Senate,
here.
which it won't, which Democrats control. Also talked about oil and gas. I thought there were two interesting
Yeah, take me down a
ad-libs
peg.
there. And I would have loved to have seen who was grumbling exactly when he
All right,
said,
that
no,
should
we
be,
will
a little
dependent
bit
on
better
oil and
here.
gas for 10 to 15
Okay.
years. That was
CBS
embedded
down
in that
just a little bit, too,
segment,
while they're doing
where
their
he was talking
reporting.
about the green energy
So, yeah,
transition.
I'm gonna
something
tell
that
you
is
what,
within
because
his
I've been
party
researching
very
the laws
popular,
and just
he
maybe
would likely
seeing
want
if,
to run on.
you know, I
There were
don't
a
know
number
if I
of
would
things
want to go
also
live in
outlined
the
in the
People's
section on
Republic of
China
Minnesota.
that was so interesting, where it's
But I was
supposed
just
to be
looking for that. I'm like,
lowering
would
the
it be
temperature,
better
but he
for my
said a
business
few
if
times,
because I'm
name
right on the
one
river
leader who
now.
would want
I am
I think
right
it
on
would
the
be
river.
better for your
Maybe it
business
was
to
perceived
move
as a bit of an
to
insult in
Tennessee.
Beijing.
I mean, this was no doubt embarrassing
Personally.
for the Chinese to know that their
'Cause that's where we're
Oddly
gonna end
enough-
up.
been uncovered
Oddly
and
enough,
then
licensing, it wouldn't.
shot down. But then the
Really?
president
He has stricter
tried to
licensing
stick it
laws
to
for
Xi
liquor.
tonight publicly.
It seems
Wisconsin
like
does.
Curious to see how
there's
that
so
goes.
many
As you point out, Robert
whiskey
Costa,
places in
let's get back to
Tennessee.
you in the president's remarks tonight.
Well, yeah, but and they've gone through all the process. Like for somebody, especially with like the, and I'm sure that the Jack Daniels company put some lobbying into that too. Do keep that in mind to keep their competitors out. I'm sure they did a little bit of lobbying that direction.
Yeah.
But
Ron's trying to
with,
get me to send him some rum.
in front of the country, saying to McCarthy,
Oh, I don't have the chat up.
keep your party on that position. So this is
I'll put the
a
cork back in
president
that bottle
who
and mail
seems
it to me.
be embracing divided government as an opportunity
No, one of
for
the
him to
actually
stretch
one of the most
political
lenient
and
states in the
legislative
country
muscles
for
that he has honed
liquor
over
production
decades.
is Colorado.
One of the other
Oddly
things
enough,
he brought up, of
Really?
course, is what happened with
Yeah.
Tyree Nichols' appearance.
Yeah, everything's legal in Colorado, though.
That's fair. But like I was looking at because again I'm right on the river. I was looking over at Minnesota. I'm like, yeah, no, that is a detriment to trying to start a business in Minnesota. Well, anything is a detriment to trying to start a business in Minnesota.
Yeah.
One thing that struck me is that his message on that was just do something. He didn't
I
necessarily
spent more time in Minnesota
lay
than I
out
thought I
what to
would
do,
when I
and
moved
that
over here.
contrast with, for instance, what we heard him say
Mostly
in his
because the
joint
quickest way to get
address
to my
back
mom
in
and dad's house is to cut through
2021,
Minnesota.
where
Oh, yeah, I was
at the
talking to you on the
time,
phone one day when you were
efforts
making
to
that
get
cut
a
through.
bill with Georgia
Because you
was
had
in
said,
line
you're like, oh, I'm in
the
Minnesota right now. I'm like,
anniversary of
why
his
are you in
death,
Minnesota?
no timetable, no specifics on
Minnesota.
what he wants to see, and that could be intentional.
Yeah, you can tell I'm from that area by the way I pronounce the word Minnesota.
At this point, that things are still in a very early
Well, at least I don't have to
phase.
go
People
down
are
to
looking
the
Senate to see if
communist
Cory
state of
Booker
Illinois
and Tim
anymore.
Scott will resurrect
Yes,
negotiations.
that's
The
good
House,
news.
you know, there's some
Although
lobbying
you do have to
working
cut through at least a
on
little bit of it to get
legislation left. So I
anywhere
think there's still
near
some strategizing
down
there
here.
in terms of the path
Yeah.
forward, which may be
Oh,
why
no,
the
not a little
president
bit
was
of it.
less specific tonight.
It is
No.
the entire length.
No, you don't have to do it that way. You can cut over and go through Indiana down
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
65.
I did that the first time, and it was a little bit longer.
Worth it, though, because it's not Illinois.
And the toll. There's the toll there, too.
What's happening? So there's got to be a lot of
I guess it depends on which way you go. Like when I used to live in Chicago, that's the way we would go. But we also were already that way from Chicago. You know what I mean? We were already in Chicago, so we would cut down.
And then Vice President Biden was
I don't know if the
working
bridge has
on
always been tolled, but the bridge going into Kentucky,
I mean, what I was most struck
and
by
I
is
forget
the
what
fact
the
that the line that the
I
president
forget
said that
what
police
city
should
it
be
was.
Louisville.
Oh yeah, Louisville. That bridge is tolled, and it's a pretty
Really?
hefty toll too.
From both Democrats and Republicans.
And you can go around it, but you have to go through like the deepest part of the ghetto.
That moment. I mean, I think he probably stood
Well,
up
that's
to
just an adventure, Ed.
to have to on that shows a tremendous amount of progress on this particular issue. I was part of drafting George Floyd, and
I mean, you're going through Chicago to Atlanta, and you're worried about Louisville? Come on.
Well, I don't have. Well, even where I was, I didn't have to go through Chicago.
Okay.
Rockford,
as well as others that have been fighting,
which is arguably
Rockford
worse.
is, yeah, not than Chicago.
Per capita,
Maybe
it
than
is.
Louisville.
No, per capita, the murder rate in Rockford is higher than Chicago per capita.
Well, I've never seen anybody murdered in Rockford, but I've seen 2 people murdered in Chicago. So,
is that line got an applause from both sides of the
from my personal experience, which is all that matters in my life.
Oh, Ron Helton found the YouTube.
I have to ask you about some of that jujitsu, if
Ban
you will,
incoming.
that President Biden played on Medicare and Social Security. At one point, accusing Republicans of wanting to cut those entire.
Oh, I really hope they
programs,
cut
and I
over
think
to
he got
Sarah
a
really
wild
soon because,
shout from the crowd.
number one, I
So,
really
yeah,
want
guess
to.
we all agree we're not
I
going to
was
cut
talking about it on
Medicare
Contemporary
and
too. I'm like,
Social
I
Security,
hope
despite
that
there
somebody
are
invited Jim
some
Acosta
Republicans who
to
talked
Sarah
about the
Huckabee Sanders'
only way
speech.
to cut
Ron, sub to my YouTube,
entitlement reform.
since you're on YouTube now.
Important pushback, though very vocal, Nora, at the
I mean, I also stream on Twitch and all the other ones too at the same time, but you can find the links for those other ones on my YouTube.
program that cuts to Social Security.
I miss having Ron in the chat all the time. He used to, like,
Yeah,
whenever
it's-
you and
it's
I would
fun.
stream together, he was always there, and then he's not there anymore.
So, going back to the speech, though, what do you think about the State of the Union right now versus, like, if you were to give a rebuttal, like Sarah Huckabee Sanders is supposed to be doing fairly shortly here, what you don't have to give the entire stump speech, obviously, but where would your points be?
But if you talk
I would definitely hit on the firearm stuff and the abortion stuff.
If you actually look at the federal budget, they'll say
I'm trying to think of the other stuff that he said.
actually tackle entitlement.
Like, a lot of the stuff we can agree with. Like, medication prices should be lower, correct. But I don't think the government needs to be getting their nose involved in it. I think that we need to support businesses who can compete with the drug companies, like what's the Pharma Bro's name?
Let's bring in our senior
You know what I'm talking about?
Ed O'Keefe on this
Shkreli
because I know
had that drug company where he was making generic drugs, competing with these other, Martin Shkreli. He was competing with the other, with the drug companies, with Pfizer and, you know, all of the big names making generic drugs, and they put him in jail. They found something to put him in jail for to get rid of him. We need to stop doing stuff like that and just have a fair market where people can make generic of whatever people need. Not have the government cap prices.
Defense budget necessarily. It won't come from Social Security and Medicare. It leaves a very small percentage of the federal budget left to be debated over. And watch the president.
Sorry, I'm just trying to look to see
tomorrow when he goes
if they're going to cut, like, if they're going to cut over on the stream that I have up, or if they're going to start a second one.
Oh, yeah.
Because that is something. I'm right now. I'm just trying to filibuster until we get to the Sarah Huckabee Sanders speech. But
Yeah.
It won't be touched, and instead the system.
I'm watching on the Washington Post right now.
And the debate over raising the debt limit
Ew,
can be found
why?
elsewhere. But a really fascinating
Because they're streaming it on Twitch.
pretty raucous night.
They're the only ones that are streaming it on Twitch without somebody commentating, you know?
Members of his caucus and trying to
well, I mean, there's no. Well, I've got CBS with the commentators up because otherwise it's just Joe Biden
Well,
looking confused and shaking hands and sniffing a black lady.
They're commentating, but I mean, not with just some random Twitch streamer in the corner talking over the speech, is what I mean.
Yeah.
Like we're doing right now. You know, like I don't want Hassan Abi in the corner telling me what to think.
But you enjoy it when men tell you what to think, I thought.
I do. Hassan Piker is one of my favorite people to hate watch. So actually, I'm subscribed to his channel, which is why I know he was streaming it because it popped up when I logged into Twitch.
I've never, like, I've seen clips of the Young Turks. I've never been able to bring myself down to hate watch Young Turks. The most I know about Schenk was his. The most time I've spent watching Schenk was his speech with Shapiro, which is now
I'm pretty sure that hate watching is more of a girl thing. From what I understand, not a lot of guys hate watch stuff, so you're normal.
My DLive is Ed's blog Twitter. I didn't change that one over. Everything else is Jagger 101, but I did change the DLive one over.
Proof that you were a real Republican. Now the proof is that you don't mess with either of those two things. It's an extraordinary change in the Republican Party that we've covered. One other tiny thing,
get to the Sarah speech, so the rest of us can go to the fuck to bed. Morons.
Somebody's writing her speech for her real quick.
Dynamic, young, not in Washington. She now has to compete.
I wonder who that is.
The hecklers.
Who's writing that speech?
Who
gets that job?
And the Republican Party stands for. That's not exactly.
How is it that Kevin and Kamala, by the way, can just stand there like that?
If I had to guess, there's a team of people putting a speech together right now.
Classroom in most elementary schools, for
Or
example.
they were probably doing it as Biden was speaking. They were probably writing the speech.
But it is such an interesting
Like rebutting
choice.
the
She is
things.
the youngest governor, the first female governor of that state, and to have her be the choice of change.
Oh, they're
at a
talking
time
about
when
her speech
so
now
many people
too,
are
so
minded.
it's probably going to be coming up here in just a bit.
Spokesperson for the Trump administration.
But she's competing against Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene tonight.
I remember the good old days,
I mean,
man.
think back to Joe Wilson, the congressman from South Carolina, when he yelled "You lie" at President Obama. It was
He just looks so confused.
It almost seems like it's cascading
I feel
over the
bad
city
for
now.
him a
It's
little
just
bit.
another
I'm not going to lie.
interruption in a chaotic political war.
And the reprimanded for that, and the question is, will Marjorie Taylor Greene get reprimanded?
Here, I know how we can fill time. Let me do this.
What's that?
And that's the change. Is that
You guys can
Marjorie Taylor Greene
see
probably also
Xena.
benefit from this. In politics,
There she
it's
is.
all about attention and fundraising.
I got the Xena cam.
Shouting out, and where norms aren't established,
So this is normally I have two screens up when I'm streaming, and one of them is of her, and one of them is of me. She's a good co-host, not gonna lie. I do a lot of the heavy. I do a lot of the heavy lifting. Yeah, yeah.
And if so, how? It turns out he did mention it, but
Have you ever been up this way, by the way? And I'm not going to say exactly where I live, but
Yes, one time when I was a teenager, there was something called Weed Fest. It's some guy's farm up that way, like right along the Mississippi River up that way.
I know where that was.
Do you? Yeah, I went to that. Do they still have it up there every year? Yeah? So I've been to that, which I think is in the general vicinity of where you live.
Yes, I know where. Yeah, it is. You are correct.
Yeah.
I didn't say because you're wearing your Overruled KTZed t-shirt.
Oh yeah, you guys like the merch?
Yeah.
Part of the president's
Bam.
speech sounded like his inaugural
You can't see
address.
because of
Didn't
the
you
way
think
that
he
they
shared the same speechwriter?
the secondary camera is because it's a lower picture. But I've got the shirt on that you gave me for my birthday last year.
Oh, awesome.
2017 inaugural address. He didn't say American carnage, but
I was thinking about that. I was like,
he said 40 years
we're
of
both wearing
neglect,
KTZed
of
t-shirts
bad
right
trade
now.
policy,
Yes,
of
yeah. If you guys
bipartisan
want
neglect of
merchandise,
American
it's
citizens made in America, of people feeling like they were invisible.
Hawkhound Media something. Hold on, I can find it because I have it in the bio of my last video. Hawkhoundmedia.shop or hawkhoundmedia.myshopify.com. That's it. Hawkhound
I thought about
Media.
it. I've thought about it a lot, but I just don't have any.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I didn't set it up because I'm a little retarded. I got people to do that. So, but I'm pretty sure you don't pay for any. Like, you can just set it up and then, like, they just make it as people order it. You don't have to like buy a bunch ahead of time or anything like that.
I just found Mr. Zed's tweet over here. You just found out she has been selected as designated survivor. And go, and he's got a
They were very, very similar. That is a clear signal to me that in addition to
Mr. Zed's hilarious.
With all the fencing and everything up too, because we talked about that on Contemporary earlier, because you know they've got all the fencing up because they know that the walls work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I was they were doing a
It's an
video
interesting point,
flyover of the
Thank
fencing up.
you,
I'm like,
except
hey,
I
is that
would
Ray
call,
Epps?
President Trump's inaugural as being incredibly pessimistic, and clearly Biden was.
But I
trying
think
to
some of that
strike
was
optimistic
very much for show,
note in the
honestly.
Oh, for sure. When they put it up after January 6th and left it up for months, that was for show.
Yeah.
On long speeches.
Like, hey, you're not allowed in here. This is not the people's house anymore.
He makes some tonight.
Oh, we have to show some respect here for Dr. Jill Biden.
Better performances, and it looked like the speechwriters to me had finally learned Biden's syntax.
Right, you didn't hear.
Do you have respect for Dr. Jill Biden?
That speech,
No.
For example,
She's a fake doctor.
he kept the language as simple.
I have more respect for Dr. Drew than I do for Jill Biden.
We felt that the stakes were very high.
Who's actually a doctor, but yeah, he's actually a doctor.
Just a couple of weeks away. They know that the attention is on him. They know that people have
The one guy that we
questions
worked
about
with
whether he can
when I worked in the
pull
flute
off
shop
another
insisted
4
that we
years.
listen to Loveline
And so
every
they
night.
spent the entire week
Yeah.
sequestered
So we're
at
all in
Camp
our
David
20s listening to
working on this
14-year-olds
speech.
call in and
It's
ask about their
clear
genital
when you
warts.
watch
It has to
him
ask about
speech after speech
masturbation.
that with this one, he spent a lot of time going over it, reading
Dr.
it,
Jill
rewriting
Biden.
it, and getting comfortable
And
with
working
it.
with
If
John
you don't call her
Meacham,
doctor, it's
noted,
because you hate women.
Former editor of Newsweek.
I do hate women. You're correct.
Yeah, especially the end of the speech.
You sound like you would
know,
fit in as a
could
guest
start to
star on
feel
Fettucce's
the
show.
orchestral music coming.
And wait, whose show?
From John.
Bridget Fettucce's?
Back to
I don't know her.
because President Trump talked
You've
about
never
the
seen
forgotten
Dumpster Fire?
man. But he said you won't be forgotten
Bridget's one of the
any
few
longer, as
women
I
that's
recall
actually
from
funny,
that
and
speech.
that
this
is a
the
short
question, is whether
list.
Joe Biden,
Send me a
with
link.
his more gentle
I will.
delivery, grabs the same thing that former President
Get me
Trump
on the
grabbed,
show.
which is that sense of grievance. And you heard
One of their
when
bits
he
is that
talked
when
about the
they are
Joe
complaining
Biden
about the
deals and all the
patriarchy
billionaires and the
or
fees and so forth,
patriarchy
and
or
he's
something,
accessing that.
Yeah.
her and her
question
two
is
producers who
economic
ever
or is
gets
it
shown on screen
and
just
does
scream out,
President Biden have
"Women!"
the same ability to really grab that vote if he's not making those cultural plays?
And I thought Taylor, like we discussed this when As That Redemption was on, but I thought Taylor Tomlinson was funny. But again, I went over and watched what was the other Nikki Glaser on Netflix. I'm like, I got 20 minutes into that comedy special. I'm like, I can't do this.
No.
State of the Union.
Did your mic just go out, or is it just on my end?
Oh
no, it's back. It's back. It's back.
Yeah, it's all right. They just cut away from Joe, so
What's happening?
In America, the
now we've got a
future
Ford
belongs to
commercial.
everyone.
Ugh.
So we created the SUV of the future,
So if
Ford
they
Ford
do anything,
Explorer
well,
ST,
I'll watch the Ford
with an
commercial,
available 3-liter
which is
engine
fine because I enjoy
Well,
Fords.
400 horsepower. It's made
You enjoy being broken down on the side of the road. Okay, I understand.
Hey, my pickup has never left me on the side of the road.
I really can't talk anymore since my Jeep died. I really can't say anything.
That is
My
fair.
poor Jeep. My poor Jeep.
So what we gonna do? Whatever it takes.
I loved that car, Ed. I loved it. I would have
I
kept it
remember.
forever.
Yeah, until you blew the transmission out.
Well, it wasn't the transmission. It's that the check engine light came on and they couldn't figure out how to fix it. And I can't pass inspection here with that on. So I would have replaced the transmission. Let's put it that way. If it was just that, I would have paid the $5,000 or whatever it is to get a new motor or transmission or whatever.
Yeah, it's still weird to me that they couldn't figure that out.
Insane. Yeah, now I have a Buick, like an old lady. Sad.
My cousin got a Buick when he was 17.
Yeah. Buicks are for teenagers and old people.
Everybody wakes up in the morning.
It was a Regal Coupe.
Alerts that frighten them, news that
Usually the grandparent gives it to the teenager, which is like the old people buy the car and then they use it until it's almost dead and then they pass it down to a teenager.
I had to go back and fix a Buick the last time I was at my mom and dad's house, which happens a lot more often now.
That's good. I'm sure they enjoy that.
Yeah, it's only like an hour to there.
Yeah, my mom's house is about 45 minutes from here.
Quest Banning is says that your Buick is almost as nice as his lesbian Subaru.
True. Actually, I think my Buick is nicer than his. I've seen his lesbian Subaru. I'd take my Buick over that lesbian car any day.
You've seen my pickup. You've heard my pickup.
Yeah, I've been in your pickup.
Everybody in your neighborhood has heard my pickup.
We took boxes up to the gas station.
Yeah. Yeah, that we did. It rattles windows. I need tires.
Why are we stopped?
I've been trying to get some money together to buy tires, but after the big move and everything, and the fact that tires are like triple the price of what they used to be.
She's talking.
Is she? Where?
Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
There she is. I got
She's
it.
on, the Twitch stream.
Yep, I got it. Blowing it up now.
Greatest
I hate
country
her.
the world has ever known, because we're the freest country the world has ever known, with a people who are strong and resilient. 5 months ago, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. It was a hard time for our family, particularly our kids, Scarlett, Huck, and George. But we kept our faith and persevered. Thanks to exceptional doctors here in Arkansas, a successful surgery, and the grace of God, I am cancer-free. Through it all, I couldn't help but think about my mom. She was 20 years old and in her first year of marriage when she was diagnosed with spinal cancer.
No, on the CBS
The
stream, I
doctors
cannot
told
cue
her
that
she
back,
might not
actually.
live,
I'm looking
and if she
for it
did
right now, and I
live,
don't see a
they
tracker.
said she'd never walk again. And if she did walk, she'd definitely never have children. The daughter she was told she'd never have was just sworn in as the new governor of Arkansas and is speaking to you tonight. Adversity and fear of the unknown can paralyze us, but faith propels us to charge boldly ahead. We can't stand still in the face of great challenges. You and I were put on this earth for such a time as this, to charge boldly ahead. I'll be the first to admit, President Biden and I don't have a lot in common. I'm for freedom, he's for government control. At 40, I'm the youngest governor in the country. And at 80, he's the oldest president in American history. I'm the first woman to lead my state, and he's the first man to surrender his presidency to a woke mob that can't even tell you what a woman is. In the radical left's America, Washington taxes you and lights your hard-earned money on fire.
I want
But
to
you get
like her so
crushed
bad,
with
but I just
high
can't
gas
stand her.
prices, empty grocery shelves, and our children are taught to hate one another on account of their race, but not to
She's
love
grown
one
some
another
charisma since she was press
or
secretary, I
our
can
great
say that.
country.
Yeah.
Whether Joe
Well, she's
Biden
speaking for
believes this
herself now
madness
instead of
Yeah.
a
or is
mouthpiece-
simply too weak to
mouthpiece for
resist it,
someone else.
his administration has been completely hijacked by the radical left. The dividing line in America is no longer between right or left. The choice is between normal or crazy. It's time for a new generation of Republican leadership. Upon taking office just a few weeks ago, I signed executive orders to ban CRT, racism, and indoctrination in our schools, eliminate the use of derogatory term Latinx in our government, repealed COVID orders, and said never again to authoritarian mandates and shutdowns. Americans want common sense from their leaders, but in Washington, the Biden administration is doubling down on crazy. President Biden inherited the fastest economic recovery on record, the most secure border in history, cheap, abundant, homegrown energy, fast rising wages, a rebuilt military, and a world that was stable and at peace. But over the last 2 years, Democrats destroyed it all. Despite Democrats' trillions in reckless spending and mountains of debt, we now have the worst border crisis in American history. As a mom, my heart breaks for every parent who has lost a son or daughter to addiction. 100,000 Americans a year are now killed from drug overdoses, largely from fentanyl pouring across our southern border. Yet the Biden administration refuses to secure the border and save American lives. And after years of Democrat attacks on law enforcement and calls to defund the police, violent criminals roam free, while law-abiding families live in fear. Beyond our border from Afghanistan to Ukraine, from North Korea to Iran, President Biden's weakness puts our nation and the world at risk. And the president's refusal to stand up to China, our most formidable adversary, is dangerous and unacceptable. President Biden is unwilling to defend our border, defend our skies, and defend our people. He is simply unfit to serve as commander-in-chief. And while you read the consequences of their failures, the Biden administration seems more interested in woke fantasies than the hard reality Americans face every day.
Well, and it's
most Americans simply want to live their lives in freedom and peace. But we are under attack in a left-wing culture war he didn't start and never will.
He found some common ground.
Every day we are told we must partake in their rituals, salute their flags, and worship their false idols.
Joe Biden is this,
all
Joe
while
Biden
big government colludes with big tech to strip away the most American thing there is.
But very slow
your
and very
freedom of
raspy.
Speech.
Like
it's not
this.
normal. It's crazy. And it's wrong. Make no mistake. Republicans will not surrender this fight. We will lead with courage and do what's right, not what's politically correct or convenient. Republicans believe in an America where strong families thrive in safe communities, where jobs are abundant and paychecks are rising, where the freedom our veterans shed their blood to defend is the birthright of every man, woman, and child. These are the principles Republican governors are fighting for, and in Washington, under the leadership of Senate Republicans and Speaker Kevin McCarthy, we will hold the Biden administration
I kind of wish they'd have got Nome.
True.
Down the street from where I sit is my alma mater, Little Rock Central High.
Marjorie Taylor Greene would be more entertaining.
As a student there, I will never forget watching my dad, Governor Mike Huckabee, and President Bill Clinton hold the doors open to the Little Rock Nine. Doors that 40 years earlier had been closed to them because they were black. Today, those children once barred from the schoolhouse are now heroes memorialized in bronze at our State House. I'm proud of the progress our country has made, and I believe giving every child access to a quality education, regardless of their race or income, is the civil rights issue of our day. Tomorrow, I will unveil an education package that will be the most
friendly, but it's 11 o'clock at night, so it'd be
conservative
fine.
education reform in the country. My plan empowers parents with real choices, improves literacy and career readiness, and helps put a good teacher in every classroom by increasing their starting salary from one of the lowest to one of the highest in the nation. Here in Arkansas and across America, Republicans are working to end the policy of trapping kids in failing schools and sentencing them to a lifetime of poverty. We will educate, not indoctrinate our kids, and put students on a path to success. It's time for a new generation to lead. This is our moment. This is our opportunity. A new generation born in the waning decades of the last century, shaped by economic booms and stock market busts, forged by the triumph of the Cold War and the tragedy of 9/11. A generation brimming with passion and new ideas to solve age-old problems. A generation moored to our deepest values and oldest traditions, yet unafraid to challenge the present order and find a better way forward. If we seize this moment together, America can once again be the land of the free and the home of the brave. During my 2.5 years at the White House, I traveled on every foreign trip with the president. A trip I will never forget was on December 25th of 2018. My husband Brian and I had just cleaned up wrapping paper that was shoved into every corner of our house, thanks to our 3 kids. When I had to walk out on my own family's Christmas, unable to tell them where I was going that night, because the place I'd be traveling was so dangerous, they didn't want anybody to know that the president was going to be on the ground, even for a few hours. We boarded Air Force One in complete and total darkness. There were no lights on the plane, no lights on the runway. Our phones and computers shut down and turned in. We were going completely off the grid. Nearly 12 hours later, in the pitch black of night, we landed in the war-torn part of Western Iraq.
I thought this was supposed to be a 10-minute rebuttal. What is she talking about?
No lights on the plane, no lights on the runway.
The president.
The only thing you could see was coming from about a mile away.
Why is this? What does this have to do with
troops who were in the fight against ISIS? Had gathered expecting to celebrate Christmas with senior military leadership from around the region.
Yeah, this is
They
not
had
a good
absolutely
look for the
no
GOP.
idea.
Why is she talking about this right
and
now?
First Lady were about to walk into that room.
This is why
And when
is
they
there a
did,
woman speaking at all? First of
was a
all,
sight
she can't stay on track.
And a scene and a sound I hope I never forget. The room erupted. Men and women from every race, religion, and region, every political party, every demographic you can imagine, started chanting in perfect unison over and over and over again, USA, USA, USA. It was an absolutely perfect picture of what makes our country great. One of the young soldiers yelled from the back, "Mr. President, I re-enlisted in the military because of you." And the president said, "And son, I'm here because of you." Shortly after, that young soldier came up to me. He said, "Sarah, you have a tough job." I told him, "What I do is nothing. You take bombs and bullets. That's a tough job." And in a moment that I know I'll cherish for the rest of my life, that soldier reached up and he pulled the Brave Rifles patch he wore on his shoulder. And he placed
This is a
it
great
into my
speech, but I
hand,
don't know what it has to do with the State of the
a
Union.
sign of ultimate respect.
I don't think it's a great speech.
And he said, "Sarah, we are in this together." Overwhelmed with emotion and speechless,
Like it'd
I
be a
just
good
hugged him
Armistice Day speech.
with tears in my eyes and a grateful heart for our heroes who keep
Or
us
like
free.
on a.
That young man
This is a
and
campaign
everyone who has served before him,
That's what this is.
all of
I've been trying to
those
figure out what
who
this
serve
is.
alongside him, and the thousands we know who will be called upon to serve after him, deserve to know they have a country and a community back home doing our part in the fight for freedom. America is great because we are free. But today, our freedom is under attack, and the America we love is in danger. President Biden and the Democrats have failed you, and it's time for a change. A new generation of Republican leaders are stepping up, not to be caretakers of the status quo,
I don't even know.
but to be change makers for the American people. We know not what the future holds, but we know who holds the future in his hands.
If you go to that festival that
And
I
with
went
God
to when
as
I was
our
a
witness,
teenager.
we will show the world that America is still the place where freedom reigns and liberty will never die. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know what she was
God
talking
bless
about.
you, and God bless
It was a great
America.
story. Don't get me wrong.
And there,
However, I don't know what it had to
Huckabee
do with the
Sanders
State
there
of the Union.
delivering a strong.
That was not a strong rebuttal. I just heard that right before I hit the mute button. I heard the CBS lady say that. I'm like, no, that's not what that was.
Yeah.
That was, and that made a good campaign speech, like I said.
Yeah, like I said, the story about her going in the middle of the night and having to turn her phone it was a good story. But this was not the appropriate time. I want
We're
to say a
doomed, aren't
quick
we?
thank you to the 2 people who subscribed to my channel since I've been here. Looking at you, I'm assuming it was Luke and probably Ron Helton.
Well, Ron Helton said that he was going to, so.
There you go.
Well, it is 10.
11.
Which means it's 11 for you.
Which means I'm an hour late to go to bed.
I was going to say, what time do you have to get up for work?
6:30.
Oh, you've got, well, no, you're probably getting up about the same time I am, because I get up at 5.
Yeah.
All right, so I know that you put it up in the chat, but before we take off, you want to take a little bit of time and let everyone know where they can find you. And by the way, thank you again for coming and making sure I didn't have to go do that alone, because
It's now
I
a
might have finished off
tradition,
that mason jar that's sitting next to me.
We have done it 2 years in a row, so now it's an actual tradition. So yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel, which is KTZed. I have 2 shows that I do there. One of them is called Overruled, like the shirt says. And those are deep dive, long form stories on a single topic. And then every other week I do, because it takes me a long time to research for Overruled, so in between I do a show called Crime Land, where it's just like quick hitting stories, kind of like Ed's show where he's going through a bunch of news stories, but all of mine have to do with crime. Or stuff I find interesting. Mostly crime. And this coming up week, I'll tell you what. Okay, so last Sunday, I do Sundays at 4 o'clock Eastern time. Last Sunday I had Britt on, and we talked about a serial rapist, but the Overruled before that, I interviewed a guy who his name is Justin Coleman, and he came on my show, and he had murdered a guy when he was 17 and spent 15 years in prison. And it was the most interesting conversation I think I've had with anybody in my life. So if you're going to just check out my channel one time, find that Justin Coleman one. Listen to that conversation, because it was actually really cool to get his takes on things. Yeah, I guess that's it. At Twitter, follow my Twitter, and you get updates on when I'm going live and stuff. My Twitter is @it's KTZed. I think that's it.
Yeah, it is, because I remember having to go look for it, because I would try to put the KT in there to find you, and it wasn't popping up.
Well, I've had a couple of Twitters. I mean, it's my first Twitter ever. I've never been banned before, ever. Yeah, it's like my 5th one, and the last one that I had is still up. They just locked me out of it. So, and that one was KTZed is not here, and it's still there. It looks like I'm there, but I'm not there. I can't get in that account. So, which
is kind of prophetic by what it actually says on there.
KTZed is not here. I'm not there. Exactly.
All right, and with that, we're going to head out of here for the night. Thank you, everybody who came by, hung out, chatted in the live chat, kept us going here, kept the stats going. We had a busy night here, and, hopefully some of you guys will be back here for Contemporary. That is at 6 p.m. Central Time every weekday night as we go over the news, the headlines, and get some commentary in on that. That is your evening news. Yes, again, coming from somebody who doesn't wear a suit that costs more than your house. So, come back, join us for that every weekday for that. And now that things are starting to settle down in here, we might start getting back into some of the game streams. I played Fallout for the first time since I moved.
That sounds so boring. But you guys probably like it, so go check it out. I'm a girl. I don't know about video games.
But we're going to be out of here for that. Thank you again. Thank you, audience. Thank you, President Biden, for giving us a bunch of propaganda to analyze. Thank you, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, for boring us to fucking sleep. And thank you, Katie.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
We'll be out here. Take care.
Maybe